Dr. Elena Carter sat motionless in the center of the room, her eyes scanning the gleaming walls of the cell. Smooth and metallic, they seemed to hum faintly, like the ship itself was alive. Her mind raced, analyzing her situation. She had been on a routine mission near the asteroid belt when everything went dark. Waking up in this sterile, oppressive chamber had made one thing clear. She wasn't on Earth anymore. A faint hiss preceded the entrance of her captors. They were tall, their elongated forms draped in metallic robes that shimmered unnaturally. Their faces lacked any features except for a pair of glowing orbs where eyes should be. As they approached, she felt an intense pressure in her head, as if someone were rifling through her thoughts. "You will comply," a disembodied voice stated. It wasn't a question, but a declaration. Elena suppressed the rising panic. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" The voice ignored her questions. "You are primitive. Yet your species has made advancements we do not understand. You will provide the knowledge." Elena narrowed her eyes, realizing their telepathic probing was invasive but imprecise. They weren't finding what they wanted. That gave her a sliver of hope. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said firmly, but the voice pressed on. "We have observed your species. Reckless, chaotic, unpredictable. Yet your rapid evolution defies logic. Your recent technological advancements suggest external influence or hidden potential. We will extract the truth." Their arrogance grated on her nerves, but she hid it well. Let them underestimate her. She noted the faint flicker of lights on their robes, syncing with their speech. Their telepathy likely relied on some form of technology. If she could disrupt it, they moved closer, one of them extending a thin appendage toward her head. She recoiled instinctively, but a sudden paralysis gripped her body. Her vision blurred as they attempted to delve deeper into her mind. The pressure intensified, but instead of yielding, Elena focused her thoughts on irrelevant memories. Baking cookies with her grandmother, her high school debate tournament, the lyrics of a song she hadn't heard in years. The invaders paused, their frustration palpable. "Your mind is disorderly," the voice declared. "Welcome to humanity," she quipped, her lips curling into a defiant smirk. The paralysis lifted, and the beings withdrew. They spoke among themselves in a series of rapid, unintelligible clicks. Elena leaned back, feigning exhaustion, but observing their every move. These creatures relied on efficiency and order. She'd bet they had no contingency plan for someone like her. As they exited, the cell walls shimmered, sealing her in once more. Elena exhaled deeply, her mind already formulating a plan. These aliens may have been advanced, but they were blind to the simplest truth. Humans didn't break easily. If they wanted to understand humanity, they had just made their first and biggest mistake. Elena spent hours, maybe days, observing every detail of her environment. The Zareth might have thought her powerless, but she knew better. Her training as a systems engineer had taught her one universal truth. Every system, no matter how advanced, had weaknesses. Her captors' rigidity was their first flaw. Their movements were precise, methodical, devoid of improvisation. They carried themselves with the confidence of a species that hadn't faced unpredictability in millennia. Their arrogance made them sloppy. The walls of her cell pulsed faintly, emitting a rhythmic vibration. She deduced it was part of the ship's power cycle. The same hum resonated through the floor, syncing with faintly glowing nodes embedded in the corners of the room. These weren't just structural, they were functional. Power relays, maybe sensors. If she could interfere with one, she might disrupt the system. Elena's first opportunity came during a physical examination. The Zareth led her into a chamber filled with strange, hovering instruments. They scanned her with beams of light that felt uncomfortably warm but didn't cause pain. While they were focused on their devices, she noted the small objects scattered across the table. One tool resembled a thin, flexible probe with a metallic tip. Another appeared to be a compact energy cell, small but powerful. She waited for the moment their attention faltered, then deliberately shifted, knocking a tray to the floor. Primitive clumsiness, one of them remarked telepathically, ignoring her as they retrieved the tray. That was their second mistake. Elena slipped the probe and the energy cell into the sleeve of her jumpsuit, keeping her expression neutral. Back in her cell, she studied the stolen items under the faint glow of the walls. The energy cell was unfamiliar but seemed straightforward, a self-contained power source. The probe was more interesting. Its tip emitted a faint charge when pressed. Combined, they might serve as the foundation for a makeshift EMP device. Her fingers worked quickly, stripping insulation from the probe's wire using her teeth and twisting the exposed ends around the cell's contacts. She knew it wouldn't generate a large pulse, but it didn't need to. A small disruption in the power cycle might cascade into something larger, especially in a system this tightly integrated. As she worked, she replayed her earlier interactions with the Zareth. Their frustration had been evident when their telepathy failed to extract useful information. But there was something else, a flicker of curiosity. Despite their disdain for humanity, they couldn't entirely suppress their need to understand. She decided to exploit that. When the Zareth returned, she feigned confusion, asking questions about their ship and their technology. At first, they ignored her, but her persistent curiosity seemed to unnerve them. One of them finally responded, its glowing eyes narrowing. "You seek knowledge beyond your capacity," it said. "Maybe," she replied, smirking. "Or maybe you don't know as much as you think." The tension in the room shifted. The Zareth retreated, leaving her alone again. She glanced at her improvised device. Soon, they'd learn just how much they'd underestimated her. Elena crouched in the corner of her cell, the improvised EMP device hidden beneath her jumpsuit. She had tested it sparingly, generating small sparks to confirm its functionality. Now, she waited for the next moment to strike. Her heart pounded, but her mind remained sharp. The Zareth's overconfidence was her greatest ally. When the lights in the cell dimmed slightly, coinciding with the hum of the power cycle, she activated the device. A sharp crackle followed, and the subtle vibrations under her feet stuttered. The lights flickered erratically before stabilizing, but she noticed something promising. The shimmering walls around her briefly distorted, like ripples in water. The disturbance didn't go unnoticed. Moments later, the door to her cell slid open, and two Zareth entered, their glowing eyes pulsing with agitation. "Explain this anomaly," one of them demanded telepathically, their collective frustration bleeding through their mental projection. Elena feigned innocence, her expression blank. "I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe your perfect systems aren't so perfect after all." They hesitated, exchanging unspoken thoughts. Their telepathic communication seemed strained, as if something were interfering. That was her first confirmation that the EMP's effects extended beyond her cell. When they left, she acted quickly, prying open one of the power nodes in the corner of the room. Her hands moved with practiced precision as she connected the EMP device to the exposed circuitry. She modified it to deliver a more sustained pulse, one that could spread through the ship's power grid. As she worked, she noticed a strange phenomenon. The pressure she had felt during their telepathic probes was gone. Instead, there was a faint sense of static in the air, as if their mental network was fraying. The next pulse she triggered was deliberate. This time, alarms blared through the ship, and the walls of her cell shimmered and then collapsed entirely. She stepped into the hallway, where chaos reigned. Zareth scurried in every direction, their usual calm precision shattered. Elena ducked into a shadowed alcove, watching them closely. They seemed diminished. Their movements were less coordinated, their glowing eyes dimmer. She realized the EMP hadn't just disrupted their technology. It was interfering with their hive mind communication. The network they depended on was unraveling. She moved carefully, using the confusion to access a console. The interface was alien, but patterns in its design revealed the logic behind it. She bypassed basic security protocols and accessed the ship's systems. Maps, data logs, and communication frequencies scrolled before her. One file caught her attention, an analysis of humanity. The Zareth had underestimated humans, labeling them primitive but unpredictable. Yet their logs revealed an underlying fear. Humanity's ability to adapt and innovate was something the Zareth couldn't comprehend. It defied their rigid understanding of advancement. Elena uploaded a distortion signal into their communication network, further amplifying the disruption. As she did, she left a message embedded in their logs. You think us primitive because you don't understand us. That's your first mistake. Don't make a second. With the ship spiraling into disarray, she prepared for the final phase of her escape. Elena moved swiftly through the corridors, the sound of chaotic footsteps echoing in the distance. The Zareth had failed to contain the disruption she'd caused, and their once imposing presence had crumbled into confusion. She had no illusions about her time. This window of opportunity was fleeting. She needed to act fast. Her fingers danced over the console, setting a course that would send the ship into the path of a nearby human fleet. The Zareth didn't understand the importance of small decisions. They'd assumed their victory when they captured her. But humanity thrived on unpredictability. Now it would be their undoing. The Zareth had overestimated their superiority in every way. They thought their advanced technology would break her spirit, but they had underestimated the human mind. Elena didn't need to overpower them. She simply needed to disrupt their systems, sow enough doubt, and exploit their rigid thinking. Her use of their own technology against them had shaken their confidence to the core. As she reached the ship's main hangar, she saw a flicker of light. One of the Zareth had managed to reactivate the security systems. But it was too late. The damage she'd done to their communication network had delayed their responses long enough. She slipped past the guards, who moved sluggishly, their coordination impaired. She accessed the shuttle bay, quickly piloting one of the smaller vessels. Her hands moved without hesitation, the shuttle responding as if it had been designed just for her. As the ship's systems powered up, she watched the Zareth ship's sensors flicker and fail, a result of her earlier tampering. They had no way of knowing where she was headed or how to stop her. Elena couldn't help but smile as the Zareth's enormous craft grew smaller in her rear view. The chaos she had instigated wasn't just physical, it was psychological. They had been so sure of their technological superiority that they never considered what it would be like to face a species like hers, unpredictable, adaptive, and resilient. She had shown them the power of human ingenuity. Before she could leave the system, she activated the final part of her plan, a distress beacon, set to transmit a warning to Earth. It wasn't just a message of escape, it was a declaration. The Zareth had taken a human hostage, and in doing so, they had made the mistake of underestimating humanity's capacity for survival, innovation, and vengeance. She wasn't just a prisoner anymore. She was a symbol of what would happen if the Zareth continued their aggression. But despite the victory, Elena didn't feel a rush of triumph. Instead, she felt an overwhelming sense of justice. There was no need to destroy the Zareth. She had already made her point. Humans didn't need to conquer to win. We simply needed to be underestimated. The ship's systems powered up, and Elena sent the shuttle into a quick descent toward the human fleet waiting in the distance. In a few moments, she would be free. The Zareth had learned their lesson the hard way, and the message would be clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Her final thought as she glanced back at the fading Zareth ship was simple. Next time, don't make the same mistake.